Hi everyone, welcome to Just Spooling Around Quilt-a-long Block 2, the rail fence block. As you can see, I have chosen a different set of colors than from the original pattern. I want to encourage you to have fun. Before we move on to the steps on creating our rail fence block, I want to talk about one more time about the tops and bottom of each spool. Now remember, we're going to use the stitch and flip method. So you're going to take your squares and you're going to draw a line from corner to corner. Now let's see if this will show up on camera. Now I'm using one of the friction pens that's supposed to be, it's called the friction ball clicker. It's erasable, but we're not going to have to erase it right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so I'm going to bring it up close to you and see how I've drawn one line on the diagonal from corner to corner. Now you're going to take these and you're going to place them so that your diagonal line goes towards the center. Let's bring it over here so that you can see both. Okay, see, I'll move the ruler out. See how I have the two coming in? They start on the outer top corners and then they come inside. And you're going to stitch directly on those drawn lines. And what you get is this. I have the same thing over here. And this one I've already flipped. There we go. So our next step is to cut. So we're going to take a ruler. We're going to line your 1/4 inch line on the stitched line, and you're going to trim away. Now remember, save these because we're going to use these in the border. All right, let me trim the other one and then we'll move on to piecing our rail fence. And don't forget to press. So now you flip and you press. So as you can see, I'm really using some bright, fun fabrics. I really love the black with the polka dot. Isn't it cute? And I got it from my scrap pile. But unfortunately, guess who doesn't have any more of that fabric? I also pulled all these little pieces out of my scrap bin. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to decide which color or the order you want to place your colors in. I decided I wanted the red here with the orange, blue over here, and then green. Easy peasy. Just play with them if you don't like the first arrangement. It's no big deal. So once we piece them together, or piece each of our block units, you can rotate them. If you don't want this one to go horizontal, you can make this one go vertical and then change this one to horizontal. It's strictly up to you. So let's get started piecing. But I like mine this way. Whoop, let's turn this one this way. You always want your background fabric, whether it's a dark or a light, depending what colors you are using, you want it to face the middle. All right, so you're going to take, whoopsie, I did it again. You're going to take your two components. You're going to take a color, and in my case, my dark, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. And then I'm going to repeat the process and do the same thing. Once you have sewn them together, you're going to then join your pairs into a group of 4. Go right sides together, and by the way, press towards your darker color. They're not going to butt up against anything else, so you don't need to be too concerned about which way the seam allowance goes. You just want them to all go in basically the same direction. All right, so we're going to go right sides together. I'm going to sew a seam here. Then afterwards, we're going to make sure that they're 3.5 inches because that's what each one of these should be, a 3.5 inch square. And this is a good time also, if you haven't checked your seam allowance, to go ahead and check it. So I have my green one sewn, and when I went to measure it, it was not 3.5. It was just slightly under. So as I'm checking my seam allowances, I realize, oh, I can see. I forgot I'm sewing on a different machine and I didn't move my needle over. So what I want to show you is how I quickly take out seams. So first of all, this is my favorite seam ripper by Clover. And what I'm going to do is I pop out just a couple stitches first, lift the fabric, place my seam ripper to where the ball is on the left side of the seam, and the longer pointier part is on the outside of the seam. I hold and I go just like that. And then if it happens to stop, I don't force it. I pick it up. There's usually just a group of threads in there that need to be taken out. And then we just finish taking out the seam. And that's how I fix each one. Okay, so whenever I rip a seam out, you know, there's always these little fuzzies left over. I also want to get rid of as many of those as I possibly can. Check the back, and also give your fabric a quick press so that it will lay nice and flat. There we go. Now, when I go to fix them or sew the pieces back together, I won't have anything that's like giving me a hard time. All right, we're going to do it again. Let's see if I can get all the way through. Ta-da! Look at there. Isn't that neat? Don't be afraid to try this. It's actually kind of relieving. All right, so let me press this one, and then I'll do one more so you can see it again. Some of you are probably going, oh, I know how to do this. And some might be saying, I am never going to do that. But you know, I used to be one of those that would say, I am never ripping seams like that. Sure as the world, I will rip my fabric. But I tried it, and I was patient. And by the second time, I had it. I was no more nervous about it. Okay, we're going to open it up. Put my seam ripper in. I use my fingers to hold it tight. That's, you know, applying pressure. And you just push all the way through. And by the way, I don't hold it flat. I don't hold the seam ripper flat. I kind of tilt it up just a little bit and send it on through. Okay, let me get these fixed, and I'll be right back, and we'll move on to how to join our rail fence blocks. All right, now one more thing before I continue to sew these together is that these components, when sewed together, they equal 2 inches. So this set is 2 inches, and this one, that's another way, they're 2 inches wide. That is another way to tell if your seam allowance is correct. Now it's time to join them. So we're going to go right sides together. And we're going to sew right along here, just like we did before. So now that we have made sure our units are all the right size, we're going to join our top half pieces together, our bottom half pieces together, and then pull the two together to create your rail fence block. So our next step, we're going to add our, and don't forget to measure to make sure it's the right size. Now we're going to add our side pieces. So you're going to do a left and a right. And then you're going to do a top and a bottom piece. So let's move these up here just a little bit closer. Once you do those, now as you construct them, you're going to press towards your left or right and your top and bottom pieces. And then you're going to add your 2 side pieces. You'll have one to the left and one to the right. And you will press towards those units also. And after that, you should be able to add your top spool and your bottom spool just like that. Isn't that cute? Okay, I hope you enjoyed making your rail fence spool block. And don't forget, or let me give you a little tip here. If you don't like the colors you started out with, it really is no big deal. I personally did not like the secondary colorway that I've already cut out, the more tan blocks. And I thought, you know, I really want to do something fun and whimsical. So that's when I went to my scrap pile and went, why not? Why not make another one that's a totally different color, just to show you you have options. You don't have to use solids. You don't have to use all quilting cottons. You don't have to use all batiks. These are batiks. This is a batik and the rest are cotton. When you are choosing your fabrics, and maybe you want to make each one of your spool blocks a different, make them all different. What I want you to consider are don't bring in really large prints, because what will happen is your spool will be gone. You won't be able to tell the spool from the block that's on the inside, because the big large prints take away. I promise, because that's what I did on the very first one that I made. And I think I made like 6 of those blocks, and then I finally stopped and decided that, you know what? I'm gonna make these into a table runner, which I will show you that. And I made a pillow, and I'm thinking that I might have one more project for you. So you get all this. How cool is that? Okay, I hope you're having a wonderful time. Don't forget, because this is exactly what I did, was when I switched machines, and now all my machines are baby lock, I just forgot to move my needle over to position so that I would get a good 1/4 inch seam allowance. My mistake. Oh well, it happens, but you know what? You learned how I rip seams. And yes, I have ripped seams using that method on a border. And look, my finished block. How cute and fun is that? I think I really like the polka dots a lot. I might have to go find some more polka dotted fabric. And if you know me well, that I have lots of polka dotted fabric. Maybe not that exact polka dotted fabric, but I think I've got some that I can make more with. Actually, all right, everybody, have a wonderful